Her novel, A Season for Martyrs, received critical acclaim. Her feminist dystopian novel, Before She Sleeps, is coming soon. A regular contributor to the New York Times, Al Jazeera, and the Huffington Post, Bina is a frequent guest on the BBC. She has contributed essays and op-ed to Granta, the Independent and The Guardian, and writes a regular column for Dawn. She is currently president of the Alliance Française, Karachi, and works on issues of women's rights and female empowerment in Pakistan and across Muslim countries. Over to you, Bina.
I have such a loud voice, you'll hear me anyway. So welcome to the, yes, welcome, now I'll have to be more silent. Welcome to the panel, Italy Reads Pakistan, where we are proud to present to you the Italian translation of last year's winner. The people who are on the panel with me really need no introduction, but I'm going to give them to you anyway. On my right, we have Omar Shahid Hamid, who is our resident cop turned writer. For the more formal information about him, he joined the police force in 2003. And he served in some of Karachi's most dangerous areas, Liari during the gang wars. He's served in Pakistan's intelligence bureau and in the Sindh Police's counterterrorism department. His first novel, The Prisoner, was written in 2013, inspired by his experiences in the police. The book became a bestseller both in India and Pakistan. And his second novel, The Spinner's Tale, was published in 2015 by Pan Macmillan India. The Spinner's Tale won the Karachi Literature Festival's Fiction Prize in 2017, as well as the Italy Reads Pakistan Prize in the same year. And his third book, The Party Worker, was released last year, January 2017, and I believe it won the Best Fiction Prize again. So Omar is a real winner on all accounts. We are joined today by the Italian Consul General, Anna Ruffino, and she has just reached us from a previous posting in Madrid. She holds a degree in political science and a degree in international relations. She has done a master's in diplomacy from the Institute of International Political Studies in Milan. Her first assignment in the diplomatic service was as secretary of the legation at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Rome. She was the first secretary at the Embassy of Italy in Madrid, and she has joined the Consulate of Italy here in Karachi from the beginning of January. Something that I learned about Anna is that she's not just a diplomat, but also a musician. She has a diploma of piano from the Musical Conservatory of Cuneo in Italy, and she is not bilingual, she's quadrilingual. She speaks Italian, French, Spanish, and English. So she may express herself in any of those four languages, or even Urdu, as she did at the opening ceremony. Her Urdu is increasing exponentially day by day. So welcome, Anna. We're so honored to have you with us today. And the last person on the panel needs no introduction, so. No, I'm kidding. Ameena Saiyid, OBE, the current managing director of OUP in Pakistan, a position she's held since 1988. She is the first woman to ever head a multinational company in Pakistan. In 2005, she also became the first Pakistani woman to be awarded the OBE, the Order of the British Empire, for her services to women's rights, education, and intellectual property rights in Pakistan. She's the founder, along with Dr. Asif Faruqi of the Karachi Literature Festival, which is now in its 9th year. In February 2013, Ameena was conferred the prestigious French award of the Knight of the Order of Arts and Letters. It sounds much more impressive in French, for her work in promoting literary culture. So welcome to all of my panelists and welcome to all of you this morning. We're a thin but enthusiastic crowd, and those of you who have made it this early on a Sunday morning are definitely dedicated to literature. So I'll start with Anna, to ask you the very obvious question. Can you tell us what the Italy Reads Pakistan Award is? What was the objective of this prize, and why did your predecessor, Gianluca Rubagotti, set it up?
Thank you, Bina. And before starting, I just want to congratulate Omar for the prize, the award that he got on Friday So our author is very, very talented. I'm very proud to say this. And yes, what is it Italy Reads Pakistan Award about? Well, this award was announced 2 years ago. As Bina said, my predecessor Gianluca had this fantastic idea to promote Pakistani literature in Italy. Maybe you know, but Italian readers usually don't like to read in English. We prefer to read in Italian or maybe also other languages, but English is, you know, the market in Italy for English books is very small. So the idea was, how can we promote, how can we that these two words can just be put in touch. So the idea was we can translate a Pakistani author in into Italian. And that's how little, the small idea that we wanted to develop. And we found an Italian publisher, Andrea Berrini, that maybe some of you met last year here in Karachi. And today he cannot be here, unfortunately, but he sends regards. And Andrea has this Italian publisher called Metropoli d'Asia, specialized in Asian novels. And he decided to collaborate with the consulate with us. And we selected a lot of novels written by Pakistani authors in the last 2 years. And in the end, the winner was Omar with The Spinner's Tale. So we selected this book and we translated it into Italian. And the book in Italy will be put in the sale next month. So it's the first book that we have translated into Italian with this system, and this was a collaboration among KLF, Andrea Berrini, the consulate, and the author. And also, I would like to thank all the commission that took part to this process of selection. So the aim of the award is just to make Pakistan better known in Italy.
It's a very worthy objective. Ameena, would you like to tell us your perspective of this award and how it came about for you to support this through the platform of the KLF?
Yes, certainly, Bina. We've been working very closely with the Italian consulate in Karachi with regard to the Karachi Literature Festival, and I would like to express my deep appreciation of the Italian consul's support and the Italian embassy in Islamabad, their support for KLF, which has been going on for years. And actually, a few years ago, the Italian ambassador also spoke at our inauguration. After that, Mr. Gianluca has spoken. And I'm so glad that this year you joined us, Anna. I think, this is, I love the title, Italy Reads Pakistan. And I think this has been a wonderful experience working with the Italian consulate and with the publisher in Italy. As Anna said, that this prize was announced in 2016, and a lot of submissions were received, and then they were reviewed by a jury based in Pakistan as well as in Italy. And Omar Shahid Hamid's book was selected, The Spinner's Tale, for this award, and that was announced last year in 2017. And voila, now we have the book just a year later. And I think it's been very efficiently managed. And I would like to say that Italy is also, our current Foreign Secretary, Ameena was formerly ambassador to Italy. And as ambassador, she wrote to me and she said, I want to have KLF in Rome. So I said, well, I can suggest authors and people who can speak and any other support that you would like from Karachi, we can do that. And she organized it. I think this was the first literary festival that was organized outside Pakistan, at a Pakistan embassy. She also said recently that now as Foreign Secretary, they want to use such literary events as a tool of diplomacy. So I think it's a very powerful tool. And I'm so glad that Italy in Pakistan, the Italian consulate here, is supporting such a wonderful prize and also supporting KLF. So thank you very much.
I actually went to Rome for that literary day. It was a day of Pakistani literature, and I stayed in Ameena Janjua's house. And what? Yes, and what she didn't do to promote, it was myself and Musharraf Farooqi. So we were 2 Pakistani authors selected, and there were Italian experts on Allama Iqbal and 2 Italian authors who had written about Edie, the Mirror to the, not the Mirror to the Blind. What was the other? I've forgotten the title of that book. Maybe Harun, do you remember? Half of 2 pesos. So they were there, and it was a wonderful day. Unfortunately, there was no money for this venture, and this is one of the biggest problems that, you know, in terms of promoting Pakistan, it's all about economy and business and economy. They spend a great deal of money to get the Pakistan Pavilion at Davos, but when it comes to promoting our literature and our arts, the embassy people had to basically put us up in their house and take care of us themselves, and they had no money allocated. So I really hope that's something that changes in the future. Omar, how do you feel about being published in Italy? This is not your first foreign translation, is it?
It's not, Bina. But before I answer that, I'm going to sort of try and take up the challenge that Anna set all of us, because she really set the bar high by speaking in Urdu at the opening ceremony. And when Gianluca was here, he had said, well, you know, by the time the book comes out, you should be able to read from it in Italian. Now, I have not been, you know, full disclosure, not been able to do that, but I'm going to make an attempt to say a few words in Italian.
Mamma mia.
Yeah, so, you know, for all the genuine Italian speakers in the audience, if I butcher your language, I apologize in advance. È un piacere essere qui oggi in vostra compagnia ed è per me un vero onore la pubblicazione in italiano del mio libro. Spero che i lettori italiani lo amino quanto i lettori inglesi e quanto io ho amato scriverlo. If I abuse any of you,
Wow. Anna, can you translate what he said? Can you translate what you said?
I'll give you the translation.
Harun is laughing the most.
Harun, I didn't say any of the bad words, right?
Did you coach him on the pronunciation? You were the coach? I hope it wasn't Google Translate that was the coach.
No, it wasn't. It was outsourced, which is why sort of I was worried that someone might have sort of slipped me something totally inappropriate. But essentially what it said was, it's a pleasure to be standing here today in this august company, and it's a real honor and a matter of pride for me to be published in Italian. I hope all of my Italian readers enjoy this book as much as my English readers, and as much as I enjoyed writing it.
As far as I know, Italians are not terribly familiar with cricket. So how do you plan, do you think this book is going to bridge that cultural gap?
Perhaps for the Italian version, we could have, I thought about substituting the cricket bits and putting in football. That would have been a much easier cultural transition.
No.
But I think it's, primarily it's the story is a very topical one, especially these days in Europe, about how young men get radicalized and start following a very different path in their lives. So I think that aspect of it, notwithstanding the cricketing references, will appeal or will be of interest to anyone who's reading that, especially, as I said, in light of world events these days.
So you're looking at the metaphor, well, it's not even a metaphor, but how young men sort of form these bonds of brotherhood. And in Pakistan, one of the biggest ways in which men bond is over sport. And so, but unfortunately, in your tale, this becomes the gateway to something much darker.
Yeah, I think it's, the theme of the book is that on the one hand, the sport is something that's, in a way, the antithesis of what this young man ultimately becomes. But he still clings to it, perhaps as a kind of reminder of his past or a link to his past. even though the path that he undertakes is completely different, and in fact, sort of takes him on a totally different sort of path in life.
Now, we always have this concern or complex that we don't want to show Pakistan in too negative a light, especially to countries that may not be so familiar with who we are and what makes us tick. So was that a concern for you as you were considering this translation?
No, of course there's been this debate, and a number of Pakistani sort of writers and in fact playwrights and screen filmmakers have been charged with this, with people saying that their representation has been very negative. But I think in my view, it is representing Pakistan in a human light. All of these stories, whether it's this book, whether it's some of the stuff that Sharmeen Ubaid-Chinoy has done, or anyone else, they're all human stories. And I think when you tell those stories, that is what humanizes the people and the country for people of another country, from another country. And kind of brings that home. So it removes Pakistan from the sort of headlines in the New York Times and the Washington Post headlines of terrorism and corruption or X, Y, Z, and it brings to light the human stories behind those headlines. I think that's very important. I don't think that any book or any piece of art or film or whatever would work if it was just a propaganda piece.
Of course. Don't tell that to the makers of War and all those other movies. They haven't caught on to that as yet. But yes, there's a very important difference between art and propaganda. And I think that we as writers tread those lines very carefully. I myself wrote a book which was translated into Italian, Slum Child, which did very, very well.
It wasn't just translated, it was a bestseller.
Yes, it was a bestseller.
Don't be modest.
I wasn't. I was actually going to say that I sold very well. And that was a very human story, and I think it also appealed to Italians very much because it was about a young Christian girl growing up in a slum here in Karachi. But I certainly suffered the accusations that you speak of, that why are you showing Pakistan in a negative light? I had people actually fighting with me and telling me, we don't treat Christians like this. What are you talking about? You're trying to, show us you're a Western agent and so on and so forth. You've largely escaped any of this, mashallah, even though you have written probably about some of the most darkest episodes and darkest corners and characters that you may have been inspired by in your job, in your life.
I mean, Bina, in my experience, in fact, portraying stuff in a very kind of open manner has perhaps had I think a good impact. I'll give you an example, not necessarily from the Spinner's Tale, but my previous book, The Prisoner, was of course about the police in Karachi, and if you've read it, it paints what I would call a fairly blunt and naked picture of what happens. That includes the police and the culture of policing with all its warts on it, whether it's corruption or whether it's encounter killings or whatever, and I think that it would not have worked had I not given such an honest portrayal. And I think a lot of people, so the feedback that I got from a lot of people was that they appreciated the fact, and in fact it made them realize that the sort of police officers that they saw on the street, which they would otherwise have condemned because of what perception they had of them, were in a way humanized by the book. So I think it's anyone who sort of made that charge against you and anyone else that this is a negative portrayal doesn't really understand that it's not as simple as that. And you've got to allow your readers, you've got to give them the benefit of the doubt that they have their own intelligence to be able to sort of figure out things for themselves.
You still have faith in your readers, I must say. 3 books in, I'm 7 books in, I've lost all my faith. No, I'm being a little facetious. I want to go back to what you said about actually the encounters, and this is actually a very hot topic these days. Forgive me for getting a little topical, but at the moment we're seeing protests about the killing of this young man. I forget his name.
Naqibullah Masood.
Naqibullah Masood. And that has prompted protests and even sort of the long march that's been going on in Peshawar. And you came on Twitter and you said, you tweeted something about this. Do you recall what that was? I found that it was controversial, but it was also quite a brave thing to say because it wasn't exactly the popular opinion.
Yeah, so, my point that I tried to make in a series of tweets was that, of course, what happened with Naqibullah Masood, there's no doubting that it was a tremendous tragedy. The investigation so far into the case seems to point to the fact that it was completely unwarranted. There are no two opinions about that. But my tweets had to do with something slightly different in this. Well, I wouldn't say something slightly different, but a different aspect of it, which was that I was in, the day I tweeted actually, I was in Mangopir police station, which for those of you who aren't familiar with Karachi as much yet, is a police station in the extreme north of the city. And until a couple of years ago, it was an area that had been overrun by the Taliban. So it had become a virtual no-go area. There had been several attacks on that police station, I think between the years 2012 to 2013. 14 or 15 officers posted in that police station had been killed. And I had gone there and I was having a talk with the constables posted there. And I actually asked them, and the reason I was there was that the surrounding area around Mangopir is also dominated by members of the Masood tribe.
Yeah.
So the policemen who were on duty there said that, I said, what do you think of this whole issue of Rao Anwar? And they said, of course, it's a tragedy what happened, but part of the problem, especially with the sort of very virulent media and social media backlash against the police, is that people forget the fact that it took a lot of effort and a lot of blood to secure that area, to get us to the point where I could go there at 10 o'clock at night. Or those police officers could go to their work, to duty, without having to first change into their civilian clothes and then change into their uniforms when they got to the police station. Those streets were not in the control of the state, and it took as I said, it took a lot of blood to sort of secure that or restore the writ of the state there. And their fear, and I think it was a genuine fear, you may disagree with it, of course everyone has their own opinion about it, but their fear was that such a severe backlash against the police would make it very difficult for them to continue to do their jobs, and would in fact lead to a regression in the situation in the area. And I think with all of the sort of criticism and everything of Anwar, and completely justified criticism of Rao Anwar, one has to also keep in mind that aspect. I think what I feel has happened, certainly in social media and the media in general, is that all police actions or all police officers are being tarred with the same brush as Rao Anwar. And Rao Anwar was someone whose various acts of notoriety are no secret to the people of Karachi. But we've got to kind of modulate our responses. We can't go from one extreme to the other.
Of course.
And I did catch a lot of flack for that.
I know, I saw that. Now you know how I feel.
I keep telling you to leave Twitter.
Do you know where Rao Anwar is? Can you tell us?
Wherever he is, I think it would be wherever he is, whomever he's with. I think it would sort of probably, if I were to speak to him, I would say it would probably be a good idea for all concerned, and for people to have faith in the system as a whole, to surrender and sort of put himself at the liberty of the law, and then see wherever the case or the prosecution goes.
This is going to make all the headlines tomorrow. Cop turned writer urges Rao Anwar to turn himself in. Impassioned plea for police reform. But do you see yourself having a privileged position now that you have achieved this sort of fame, respect from people who may have not respected the police before? You're quite an eloquent advocate for them. Do you feel that you now have a certain privilege or a certain power that you can use to advocate, to make people understand the difficult job that all of your colleagues undertake? Do you feel that responsibility?
I don't know if I, am in a particularly privileged position, but I do feel that wherever I can, I've attempted to, as in this case, I've attempted to perhaps portray the other side of the picture. And there is another side of the picture. And I do feel at times with social media, especially, everyone kind of gets on and you're very, you'll be very familiar with this. Everyone kind of gets on a sort of, things start snowballing and everyone kind of gets onto the bandwagon. And the issues that we deal with over here in Pakistan are very complex. It's not always black and white.
If you had to advise your son or daughter to become a writer or a policeman, what would you tell them?
I think my son would much prefer to be a writer. He quite likes the whole writing gig. And since he's sort of my co-writer on my third book, so I think
he's your co-writer. Is he credited in the?
He's credited.
Very good.
Yeah. Although I haven't given him the royalties.
What are the sacrifices that you? Yeah, that is smart. He's too young anyway. What are the sacrifices that your family has had to make to support you in your writing career?
I think you would be better off asking them that, and I get nasty stares from them. But of course, it's been great of them to give me the time to sort of engage in writing at the same time as having or carrying on a full-time job. So it's if they weren't around, I kind of would probably not have been sitting here with you.
Is he very difficult to live with when he's writing a book?
Yes.
Oh, tell us about the dark side of being a writer. I mean, we know the dark side of being a cop, power hungry, sort of trigger happy, and authoritarian. Everybody has to listen to you. But what's the dark side of being a writer?
It's interesting because when I wrote The Spinner's Tale, I've always said it was the most difficult book that I've written because Anna and I were talking as we were walking up here about.
Anna, have you read the book?
Yes,
She
I finished
it
yesterday.
last night.
Just in time.
Just in time.
For the panel.
We were talking about some of the characters, and it's difficult, when you're writing a character who does things that are beyond the pale of normal human comprehension. To make it believable, you kind of have to put yourself in his or her shoes. And I think when you do that as a writer, and I'm sure you would have sort of gone through this yourself, Bina, you go into some very dark places within yourself, and that's not always very comfortable.
No.
And obviously it's not very easy. So I think that is really the dark side, but you have to do it because you want to do justice to that character. You don't want to sort of have a character that's sort of two-dimensional. So to add that extra dimension, you have to sort of delve into these very, very ugly places, and it's not a nice experience.
Is it cathartic for you in any way? Is writing your therapy?
Writing is, not delving into dark places is not.
No. But actually, that is a part of therapy.
It is.
To revisit trauma, to revisit the disturbing things. And it's a way of processing them. What do you do to de-stress?
Right.
Besides writing. Surely you have some other hobby besides locking yourself in a dark room and speaking to no one for hours on end.
No, I actually, since I've come back to Pakistan, I'm playing a lot more cricket. So.
So this book has many aspects of your life written into it. What is the title in Italian?
Anna?
The title of the book in Italian.
The spinner says become lancio ad effetto.
I know.
It's about the sport, the cricket. Yes.
What is the word for cricket in Italian?
Cricket.
Cricket. Il cricket.
Il cricket.
And I suppose that the 5 Italians in the audience are all going to be running to buy this book.
Well, for me it was very interesting, in fact, because cricket is a sport that I don't know really well.
Exactly.
So when you describe, all the match and the techniques and everything was, well, for me, very, very difficult to understand. But I try to just go deeper in the novel. And thank you, because you opened for me a door that I would have never opened for myself. So yes.
Well, one of the best ways to get to know a country is to read its novels.
Yeah.
I always say that to people. Rather than reading the history books or the political books or the newspapers, I say read the novels, read the fiction.
I totally agree. And that's why, I mean, diplomacy is also to promote peace and to promote tolerance and to promote understanding. So when we talk about novels is the best way to reach people, normal people. So yes, I totally agree with you. And if you want to know a country, you have to go through the characters and the contemporary novels, especially because they talk about the reality. So and also you spoke before about if you are a little concerned to show a dark side of Pakistan. Well, life is not perfect, you know.
Exactly.
So also in Italy we have problems, and life is life everywhere. So no, totally, don't be afraid to show the humanity of your character, because in the end we are all humans, and the way also the main characters act in your book is the way that every human being would act.
Do you think there's any hope for an Italian cricket team?
Well, next question.
But you know, Anna's football team has not been doing as well these days. Juventus.
Yes, I'm a Juventus supporter.
You
Yes.
might, if they keep doing as badly as they are in Serie A, you might as well turn to cricket.
Oh, okay.
I'm suddenly
better
not feeling
to
very
enter in
safe.
this discussion.
I'm definitely feeling the chill now coming from the... Anyway, back to the writing. What's your next project? Are you allowed to talk about?
No. I in fact, I just finished a book. Funnily enough, it's about cricket, but in the spinner sale, cricket is just a sort of setting. It sets the scene. This the new novel is about corruption in cricket, so it's about match fixing, which is I keep joking with friends that it's the best story never told in Pakistan.
And there have been so many allusions and talk and hints about it, so this will create a lot of buzz in the sports world. Yeah. How do you think our Kaptan is going to react to this, should he ever pick up a book and read it?
I think he's... yes, that's a big...
Oh, yes, he's written a book. No, I'm just kidding. He has that Oxford degree. It's
I'm sure his schedule is pretty busy from now until September or whenever.
How are you going to vote in the elections? How? I said how. You can answer this any way you like.
No, I'll tell you. As a Karachiite, that's a very interesting question, because I think as Karachiite, this election is a very different one. Certainly, it's the most different election that I have seen in my lifetime, because you kind of have, you had a sort of political scenario where one party has been dominant for the last 35, 40 years. And now all of a sudden that party has splintered. There are no obvious alternatives. So everyone is kind of, sort of nipping at the heels, looking to do well. And Karachi has, if you look at the number of seats, Karachi has about 20 National Assembly seats and about 50 or 60 provincial assembly seats. So there's a large number of seats. And they're all up for grabs. So I think as voters, as Karachiite voters, I think all of us should pay a lot of attention to all of the various parties who are sort of vying for our affection, and vote very carefully, because I think this is an election where we have genuine choices, where probably you will not have the phenomenon as we've had before of rigging or sort of one party dominating an electoral process. So I think it'll be a very, very interesting Karachi election.
I mean, speaking of rigging, I checked where I was registered the other day, and I'm registered to vote in Liari, of all the places.
Fantastic. So,
and I've never been to Liari in my life, except I did drive on the Liari Expressway once.
But aren't you registered in Matiari?
I'm going to leave that. No, I'm registered in Liari.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to say, is that, and I, as a citizen, I actually don't know how to undo that and get that fixed. So there are so many problems already. Do you anticipate a peaceful election? Do you think we're going to have a good atmosphere in which people can get out?
I think the one thing that all the various stakeholders are very clear about is that they want long-term peace and stability in Karachi. So I think the election will be peaceful, and as unlike what happened previously, where we've always had electoral violence and
Yes.
sort of electoral intimidation. You're not going to have those things. So, which is why I say that I think it's a very genuine opportunity for Karachi voters to go to all the various parties that are competing and say, okay, what are you going to do for Karachi? Let's put it on the table. Forget the rhetoric. Forget the things that we voted for this party for the last 30 years. So we're going to vote. What are you actually willing to do for the city?
Are you ever worried that if Karachi becomes peaceful, you'll have nothing left to write about?
I'll move to Italy then.
Omar, if you want another translation in Italy, I suggest you.
I think
Thank you, Bina.
they sort of, again, there's lots of themes that are common, and there's so in places there's that nexus of crime and politics and all. So yeah, if Karachi becomes totally sort of pure.
Okay, now I'm
off to Italy.
But we have also good things in common, okay?
course,
We should
absolutely.
focus on that side.
I'm going to revert to my type and ask you: are you planning to write a book with a female protagonist? Because your books are very male-oriented, very manly, very, I see some admiration for this question from the audience. So they're very manly books. I wonder, have you ever considered looking at things from the female
So
perspective?
the cricket book that I was talking to you about is about the women's cricket team. So all the protagonists are women.
Wow. And actually, match fixing and the women's team.
Women's, yeah.
There's no money in the women's cricket.
Well,
man.
so the sort of the theme of the book is that the women's cricket team suddenly does well and becomes a hot property in terms of match fix. They become popular amongst the country, and that popularity brings with it this negative attention of match fixers and all as well. So
I cannot wait to read this book because, globally, women's cricket has always taken second place to the men's cricket teams. Wow, that's going to be. Have you got a title for that one?
It's a working title. It's called The Fix. I might sort of change it if it doesn't sound
The
sexy
Fix.
enough.
Yeah, I think that needs some work.
Yeah.
Any suggestions from the audience for the next title? We could crowdsource the next title. We're going to open the floor up to questions now. Unless any of my co-panelists have anything else they want to talk about. I'm not going to subject you to Omar reading part of his book in Italian either, because I think the Italians will faint. But is this book available for sale?
In 1 month.
In 1 month it'll be. Limited copies, though, I imagine.
Here, yes.
Yeah, where would we be able to find this book? Should we have any Italians in our life that we want to give
Amazon
it to?
Italy.
Amazon.it.
Amazon Italia.
Are you planning a tour to Italy?
Let's see. I spoke to the publisher, and perhaps maybe later in the year, I might sort of work something out with him in the summer to go across to Italy and do a few events there.
Believe me, there is no place in the world else that you would want to do a book tour than Italy. It is honestly one of the most beautiful countries I've ever been to.
Thank you, Bina. It is, in fact.
And I'm not just saying that because I want to go again and maybe go along with you as your translator or something. Although I don't speak Italian, but let's have some questions from the audience. That's in the front. And this is a shortish session. We will be done before 12, so you have time to go elsewhere.
Yeah. I've got two questions. One is for Omar, and the next one is for Anna. For Omar, you've shown a very dark side of police, and you've been working with them, and you've changed names and all, and the Dawn and the party worker and all stuff. So what's the reaction of your colleagues to it?
I think there's some in the audience. They can probably tell you how they feel.
Yeah, I think I won't say it's the dark side. I think it's a realistic portrayal, right? Not only of the police, but for instance, in the party work of politics and sort of the whole nexus of crime and politics in the city. As far as my as colleagues in the police are concerned, I think they've generally, by and large, enjoyed my books, and the reason they've done it is because I think they sort of agree with the fact that it's a very realistic human portrayal. So yes, there are negatives, but there are also positives, and sort of outlining many of the difficulties that police officers have to live with on a day-to-day basis. So I think, generally, as Bina said, there are a few of them in the audience. We can throw it open to them and get a more sort of candid viewpoint from them. But I think generally they've appreciated that portrayal.
And the next question is for Anna. Italy leads Pakistan. So what's next? Is this going to continue, or?
I hope so. Thank you, Abbas. Yes, I hope so. Right now, Andrea is just thinking about what will be next. I would like to go on, and I hope maybe next year, next KLF, to announce that there will be a second edition. But so far, we have a book, and we are very proud to present it today.
It takes a lot. I just want to add that it takes a lot of effort to administer a prize like this. I was on the jury, and this has been a 2-year process. So it's, and because again, it's a small publisher that's a limited resources, so it's not easy to do it year after year. There would probably be a hiatus, and then it will come back in a different form. I think that's probably the most. And that's very hopeful, because one of the most important things on an initiative like this is the consistency over time. And even the French Fiction Award has, we had it and it's gone into hiatus now, but they will come back. And I think that's linked to some of the difficulties about publishing and literature and writing in Pakistan. It's just, we're still trying to boost, we're still trying to get our own publishing, our own publishers going. It's a very difficult industry to get going.
But Bina, can I just add, this is actually the second book that the Italian consulate has supported. The first one was on Idi, which half of 2 Pesas, which we launched over at KLF, in which Idi Saab himself had come.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes.
So I have a question for Omar. Would you consider writing a book in which the central character was someone who had left Pakistan and moved abroad and was now diaspora? Because actually there are many Pakistanis who've lived in Pakistan, moved abroad, and taken their story there. So I'm just wondering, so far the 3 books you mentioned and the 4th one are all people who still live here, but would you consider, because you yourself have lived outside Pakistan for several years, so yeah.
I think, I've, in The Spinner's Tale, there are elements of both of the main characters spend time outside of Pakistan. In The Party Worker, a portion of the book is actually based in New York. It's certainly a theme that's very interesting. And absolutely, I think I will definitely look into perhaps doing a more diasporic book in the future.
But Pakistan is where all the fun is.
That's true. This is true.
The most dramatic place in the world is this country. Even though Karachi has been downgraded from 6th most dangerous city to 50th. What a disappointment. We'll both be out of jobs if it goes like this.
I know, I swear.
Next question, I think somebody on the side. Yes?
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Shah Ahmed. I'm a die-hard Karachiite, and we love Italians. And thank you so much for doing this for the second time. We love pizzas a lot, and the Italian cuisine a lot, and everything about Italy. Even our Chief Justice, when the main judgment came, he wrote about an Italian, novel, American-Italian novel thing, stuff like that. So I would request you to open up your embassy more like the Japanese or the British or the American, even the French embassy, to the Karachiites especially, and for the other big cities, so that we could enjoy your traditions and learn more about it. And Omar will second it. The security is not that bad.
Sorry, security for?
Security is not that bad in Karachi.
Are you sure you want to say that to a police officer?
Yes, yes.
Are you sure you want to challenge?
You're right. It's improved tremendously.
Thanks to the police and your work and your efforts. I think we don't say that often enough. I'm going to take the opportunity to say that we appreciate the sacrifices that the security officers make. We appreciate the dangers that you face. We would not be sitting here so peacefully and calmly today were it not for the police and the security that are patrolling this hotel today. So thank you for all that you do. Thank you for the sacrifices that you've made.
Bina, can I just add that We have managed to have KLF in Karachi at the worst of times because of the protection we got from the Karachi police. So thank you.
Any more questions? Yes.
I have a question for Bina, and it may be a bit of a naive question, but you mentioned that when the elections, in the upcoming elections, you would not go and vote in Liari. So I would like to know why.
I don't live in Liari. It's not ethical for me to go vote somewhere where I don't live.
She's been incorrectly registered in
Yes,
Liari.
I live in the Cliffence area. Let's put it that way.
Okay. So that's the reason.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm sorry if I wasn't.
Because we come and go to Liari all the time, so I thought it was because you thought it was dangerous.
I'm also kind of chicken too. So.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? This is your only opportunity to talk to a real life police officer. I would take it if I were you. The rest of the time, we're actually still too scared to go near them. Okay, well, I guess that wraps it up for this session. As I said, it was going to be short, but short is sweet. Thank you so much for being here. Congratulations once again to Omar. Congratulations to Anna. Ameena, thank you as always for doing what you do for us. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.